In a more civilized voice, shall we? Everybody good? We're still hungover from last night. We're still hungover. It was a good idea and a bad idea. We went over to New Holland, and we worked our way through the Dragon's Milk. Yeah, apparently at the brewery, just literally, we're going to have to do it again this evening after Hacker Jeopardy. We will go en masse over there because they got a bunch of shit that you can't buy anywhere else. Oh, oh, it's not Jeopardy, it's Family Feud, isn't it? Where are we doing that? In here? That'd be awesome. We're going to be so drunk later on. All right, so for those of you that were expecting Off the Edge, I changed. So I'll apologize somewhat in advance and not. I threw something up on Twitter a couple of weeks ago and said, look, do you want to talk about going off the edge or do you want to talk about being in this industry? And overwhelmingly, people were like, hey, let's talk about coming into the industry, being in the industry, and how as an industry we're going to change. So if you don't like it, I apologize, and all that good stuff. I'll give out alcohol as an apology later. Speaking of which, go give Eddie Mize. He's back in this. He has lots of these. My job is to see if I can get this through TSA tomorrow without getting arrested again. We had some fun on the way in. I have a little device, and we were actually We're recording this, aren't we? No, fuck it. We were sitting on the airplane spoofing ghost planes, and literally as we were coming into GRR, we were pulling up the codes, and we were like, okay, let's see if we can get like a squadron of extra spoofed ADS-B planes to come in as we're landing. And we did. It was fun. FBI evidence item number, whatever. Okay, so we're going to have some fun, making it up as we go along, or basically welcome to our industry. This is kind of like how we feel sometimes. Tell me we've all been there. All right, agenda. This is the first time I've actually seen some of these slides because I literally finished putting them together while we were in the VIP room over there 10 minutes ago. Kathy went through them to make sure that they're at least mostly civilized and in English. So we're actually going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to look at our industry, the history on it. We're going to look at what we've done right, what we've done wrong, and seriously what we need to frickin' change. We're going to, as it says, how to break into the industry. And also looking at it from the corporate side of the world. In other words, what do we need to change? How do we need to do things differently? And then we're going to talk about the big topics that we need to be talking about, which is basically we need everybody from a diversity standpoint. That isn't just men, women, color, age, it's everything. The old buggers still need to be around, as well as you young'uns. The family communication, you guys can read as well as I can. All right, things have changed since last year. Last year I was over here. I was with Calvio. They've changed direction and now causing chaos and mayhem with Laris. That's really about the only thing that's on there that's probably changed. Obviously working with Nickerson, Eric, Gates, and all the other kind of crew over there. So we're having a lot of fun doing some crazy stuff. For those of you who have followed on the last couple of years, I'm still messing around with the consciousness. I've now got a predictive engine behind the consciousness engine I've built that now is working on, as I'm doing certain things, it's still pulling more signals out of the brain, and I'm actually having it predict what I can do next. And it's getting about a 75% accuracy on certain things. My daughter came downstairs a couple of weeks ago, had the tinfoil hat system on, I was running, and she's like, what are you doing, Papa? And I'm like, I'm trying to actually put signals back into the brain. So she's like, are you trying to fry yourself? And I'm like, I think not, and I hope not. So that'll probably be next year's talk. Let's have some simple questions. We'll start with the easy one. Why are we here? How do we make a difference? Some nice, easy, simple stuff that, from an esoteric standpoint, is a challenge. But from what we need to consider as an industry and as everybody coming into this industry, these are things we need to be looking at. Some of the stuff, Jason and I were fortunate enough to be on stage in Israel earlier on this year, and we put some of these questions. Can we get ahead of the attackers? What can we actually do to change the paradigm on this one? And then one of the biggest ones we're trying to look at is, can we take a leaf out of healthcare and do something like a do no harm? How can we help the very industries that we're meant to be protecting? So this is part of what we're trying to look at. So, and then as the last one is, was 1984 right? We look at the dystopian future, that's one possibility, and what do we do to change that one? So let's look back a little bit at our history in this world and organization. I like this one because it's kind of fun. And it kind of sums everything up. But it's also extremely wrong, unfortunately, as the next slide says. Because it wasn't our industry that it is today. Notice the difference, apart from the fact everything's in frickin' black and white. There is a distinct lack of men. It was a, yeah, I'm going to mess everything up, aren't I? Because I'm going in and out. Am I? Fuck it, I'm going all the way over here. Screw you! Yeah, I know. All right, so there's a distinct lack of men. We, the white males of this industry, were not the predominant species in here. Unfortunately, we are now, but this is not how we started. And we started the industry and we started computing in a very, very different footing. Obviously, we had it from the military standpoint, the crypto standpoint, and various other things. And it was a very different outlook. And the community was very different. But unfortunately, a lot of things changed. A hell of a lot of things changed. And not necessarily for the better. You look at where we are today, you look at what's happening today, you look at how the industry is being driven today. And we end up here. 26% of the computing workforce, that's not just InfoSec, that's the IT workforce. Female, 3% have a different skin tone than the old white guy on stage. This is not going to work. The reason that we're concerned about this is because as we move forward as an industry, the combined thoughts that we have, we start looking at how and who is coding the intelligence systems, be it artificial, be it machine language, whatever acronym you want to give it. It can't be us at the keyboard. We have to do a better job. And this is InfoSec. Now this is interesting because a lot of the statistics that are being thrown around still are from 4 or 5 or 6 years ago when it was 11%. These actually came out about a month or two ago. And in InfoSec globally, it's around about 20% of the workforce is now not white males. But that still leaves 80% of us with our hands on the keyboards with our own set of thoughts. From a profiling standpoint that our industry is doing to us, do a little bit of fun stuff yourselves. Go out to Google, put 2 different people, and each person Googles the same thing from their own machines. You'll get 2 different sets of answers. Why? Because Google's looking at how we're actually searching what we're doing, what we're bringing in, and how we're being profiled. You take a look at who's building those algorithms, and it's us. We need a better level of diversity. We need better balance, which is where this comes in. We have to do a better job of including more people in this industry. And it isn't just a male-female breakdown. It's everything. Background is the big one. Background is something that we've looked at. In other words, the diverse backgrounds. How many of you were out at B-Sides Las Vegas or out in Las Vegas, the lunatic asylum this year? We did higher grounds out there, which was awesome. Kathy was running it, and it was fantastic to do it. And there were a number of us who were sitting down with people who had been lawyers for 10, 15 years, who'd done plumbing for 10 years, and were like, hey, how do I get into this industry? And for a long time, we haven't basically brought them in, but we need to. We have to have those diverse thoughts. We're building intelligent systems to think for us, and we're building them with the mindset of the old FUD white guy that's sitting up on stage. You have to seek out other thoughts more effectively. Question obviously becomes, why? We'll answer that in a little bit. So let's talk about breaking into this industry. How many of you are actually, when we were throwing this one out there, quick show of hands, how many of you are looking at getting into this industry, looking at getting into it more, looking at any of that kind of stuff? How many of you are basically sitting there going, hey, I want to be part of this lunatic asylum, or I want to do better, or I want to do something different? Just 4 of you? Get your freaking hands up, for God's sakes. Thank you. See? Interaction means alcohol. It's easy that way. By the way, the bar has opened. I am perfectly okay if people need to go out, get a drink, and bring it back, because guess what I'm doing? So let's talk about getting into it. Let's talk about, because I mean, probably a lot of us on a regular basis get asked, how do we get in? Let's talk about some basic, simple stuff. Computer science. We have taken a number of people from like SecureSet and various other places, and they want to go and they run through a 9-week course or an 18-week course and they understand InfoSec. But you need to take that step back and understand fundamentally how the bloody computer works, which a lot of people don't. Get the damn computer, take the ruddy thing to pieces, and try to break it. Actually break the stupid thing. And then fix it afterwards. It's the only way we tend to learn. A lot of people are like, well, what do I do for a project? I don't know. Go out to any of the flipping second-hand places and buy an old computer. Go down to Best Buy, pick up an old camera, pick up a surveillance system, and take it to pieces. Understand what the chips inside are doing. Understand what's happening on the silicon level. If you understand how it works, you sure as hell can understand how the hell to break it. Too many people are coming into this industry, and too many people are coming out of the colleges and going, hey, I understand apps and I understand networking, but this bunch of fucking microchips in front of me, I don't know, it just works. A lot of us, myself included, started with a screwdriver in one hand and a floppy disk in the other hand. And for those of you that don't know what a freaking floppy disk is, screw you all. Networking. Good gods alive. Congratulations, you can run Metasploit. Well done. What is it doing behind the scenes? Up and down that bloody stack. Fundamentally understand what the hell a packet is, what it does and how it works, and why it works, and then you can have a lot of fun breaking it. These are simple, fundamental things to understand. And by the way, you don't have to go spend thousands of bloody dollars with various places that'll teach you this. This is free and available on the internets. There are a bunch of people, a lot of them sitting in these front couple of rows, who do an amazing job of putting information out to help everybody understand this. Use it, please. How many of you do coding? How many of you code in assembler? Or try to get your head around assembly? Okay. Why not the rest of you? Because it's hard and it's nasty and it's mean. Yeah? It's a pain in the ass. Guess what? Fundamentally, it's the core. You want to break something? You want to get really down into the memory level and understand how shit works? You want to take out the entire John Deere tractor system? Guess what? It's assembly. We still have a smiley face sitting in all the John Deere tractors. Yay! They left their FTP server open. It was fun to do. Core programming. And then computing in the real world. Congratulations, you popped a shell on somebody's computer. What is it, and where in the entire infrastructure that you're trying to break into did you get to? Understand what an enterprise environment looks like, how it's broken down, what an enterprise system is. Understand the difference between a financial system and a healthcare system and a manufacturing system. Understand the different softwares, the systems, the controls. And guess what? You don't have to do this from inside the company. You can research the hell out of it by being on the outside still. Understand the difference between an Oracle system and a no-DBS system, and fundamentally understand these things. And again, you can do all of this yourselves. This is the self-motivating stuff. And then from our side, from the pen testing and assessment side, this isn't just pen testing and assessment, this is blue teaming as well. How many of you want to be on the blue teaming side of the world? Quick show of hands with alcohol associated. How many of you want to be red team and jumping over fences in red spandex suits? I don't look good in red spandex anymore. I'll just point that one out. Blue is where it's at and where it has to be these days. Have that conversation. I yelled about that on stage a couple of years ago. But whether you're on the blue side, the red side, the purple side, or anything else, understanding how an external attack happens. The fundamentals of how attack vectors can be put together. Same thing with internal. If you are defending your enterprise, knowing how the different attack vectors come to play in when somebody's breaking in is huge. Whether you're defending, attacking, knowing, understanding, architecting, these are simple things. And guess what? Nice thing about hanging out with somebody like Nickerson is you've got the PTES. PTES. It's out there. It's an entire freaking framework on how to build an assessment. It hands you those tools. Signal. Woohoo, I can break Wi-Fi. Guess what? That's one little piece of the freaking spectrum. We have so much of it to play with these days. We were messing around in Z's last night. We took all the televisions offline by accident. We didn't actually, they got them back again. We did manage to change channels. We didn't manage to take over the jukebox and a few other things. The human, the weakest link out there. Understand the human. We're really good at tech. We're really good at talking geek. But unfortunately, the human is, oh, you freaking angel. Oh, you are absolutely, yeah, let's do this. Oh, you. Oh, man, I love you. You, oh, oh, I'm so happy now. It's good. You kind of didn't see through it, which is all I really care about. It's freaking Goose Island. I love you. All right, I'm just gonna have a private moment for a second. I'm a happy bunny. All right, screw you all. Oh, this is good. All right, squirrels. The humans. Let's talk about the humans, and we'll have lots of conversations about that as we go through this. We keep forgetting about the humans. Or if we don't forget about them, once a year we sit down with them and go, don't click shit, don't send it, and off you go again. And we expect them to retain that? For fuck's sakes, they can't even remember what happened 10 minutes ago. And you expect them to remember it for 364 more days. What the hell are we doing? Apart from failing. So why don't we engage the humans every single week, every single month? Help them understand something different. And then the scary stuff that we all have to deal with. Policies, procedures, and controls, PPCs. How many of us have walked into an organization either before a breach to help them or after a breach to cuddle them and hand them a box of tissues and go, so, show me your policies. And they're like, we were working on those. Show me your incident response plan. Well, you know we were working on that. We can do better. And we have to do better. We have to take a step away from the technology and start looking at ourselves and start looking at the people around us and how do we engage them more. Now, this is something Kathy and a few others have talked to me about. The communication, more basics. This is stuff that we have to understand. Communications. Verbal and non-verbal communications and the cues that go with it. Kathy's done an amazing job. We did a talk, or a couple of them, and she's put it together, and you're doing it at Hacker Halted, on how we have to talk to different people. It's the same message, whether you're talking to a user, a manager, or leadership, but how you convey that message and how successfully it's going to get across. We have got to get better at doing that. The written language. How many of us have to worry about reports on a regular basis? And what do? We kind of hate doing it, and we kind of leave it to the last minute, and it gets put together, and you go like this. Shit's got to stop. We've got to do a better job of it. So you're coming into this industry, you're working in this industry, you're bringing people into this industry. This is why we need the diversity. We need people who understand these things better than we do, and we need to bring them in and freaking embrace them. Psychology and sociology. Computing and InfoSec isn't just about breaking shit. It can't be anymore these days. We're gone past those days and we have to change them. You guys can read that as well as I can. So this is the stuff, the initial limitations. You're coming into this industry, guess what? You will not be a red teamer. You might like to think about it and you might want to do it. And by the way, pivoting off of one box does not make you a red teamer. Get that through your heads now. Eventually, hell yes. No issues on that. Actually, I'd rather have you as a blue team person who can pivot off of half a dozen boxes. Start with blue. Learn how to defend. You want to be a good attacker? You figure out how defense works. You want to break shit? Figure out how it works. Take it to pieces, decompile it. I don't care how you do it, but understand fundamentally how this side of the world works. At that point in time, then you can make a decision from an industry standpoint, from a personal standpoint, or whatever. Then happy go red or happy go purple. But until you can explain to me from a blue team's perspective exactly how you defend against somebody like me, aside from shooting me or tasering me, that is in scope though occasionally. But unless you can actually do that from a blue team's perspective, you will never be able to fundamentally be what you need to be on the red side. And the other part of it, obviously, is the communication aspect of it. So, this is the other part. How many of you keep up on current affairs? What's going on in the world? What's happening in the world? I can't put this down. I want to put it down. I've run out of freaking space. I'm putting it there for a wee second. So when we're talking to people in this industry, what's happening? What's going on? What are the trends? What is going on from basically the security side of the world? What's going on from the human side of the world? What's going on from a geopolitical side of the world? Why am I all of a sudden getting attacked by Israel or Palestine, depending upon who I've just sent money to recently? Why am I getting attacked by certain factions in South America, etc., etc., etc.? Understanding more than just this is key in this industry these days. And then one of the questions that we ask when we're talking to people is, what do you do in your own time? Now, not everybody needs to have a lab in the basement or a lab wherever they need to be, but if you're going to come into this industry and do more than just go into it as a job, this comes into it hugely so. A lot of us have families. That takes up spare time, obviously. It takes up a bunch of time. But when the family settle down at like 10 o'clock at night, that's when I start doing the fun stuff. From basically 10, 11 o'clock at night until about 3 o'clock in the morning, I do my research, break shit, try not to fry my brain, have drinks, curate drinks, but other things along those lines. That's the time that we get to learn. That's the time that we get to tinker, basically. And it literally is tinkering. It's hacking. Use that time wisely. Put that time aside and do something with it. This is my fun one. This is one of those ultimate ones. Certs versus experience. Quick show of hands. Who's got their CISSP or wants to admit to having it? All right, so the other show of hands, who used to have their CISSP but doesn't have it anymore and isn't allowed to say that you used to have it. This is awesome. Again, we get asked regularly, what cert should I get? What experience do I need if I'm coming into this industry? And some of that's going to depend upon where you want to go. You want to go work for the Big Four or BAH or any of those guys? You're probably going to have to basically get your cert sorted out or find a way around HR. Who still submits their resume in through human resources? Anybody? So all of you basically do something else, yes or no, where everybody's like, okay, how the hell do I deal with it? Let's talk about how we do deal with it. By the way, a very good friend of mine, I can't say who because we're on record, has made a whole bunch of these. So we're going to start giving them out. We'll talk about the other stuff in a second. This is an interesting one. Practice the breathing. Unfortunately, society today has given us, I want it now. Can I have it now? How about now? Can I have it now? How about now? That shit doesn't work in this industry. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a hell of a lot of patience. And we don't really have it, unfortunately, most of us, but we need to get it. I've been at this now since I was, 10 years old. My first computers were confiscated from me when I was 14 years old. I'm a hell of a lot older than that now. And I'm still learning. Actually having fun doing it. But it's patience. It takes time. You want to learn a coding language? Guess what? It ain't happening overnight. I'm working on the whole putting the consciousness matrix bullshit together, but we got about another 5 or 10 years. The enthusiasm. You guys have all heard the story of the invention of the light bulb and electricity and how it was 1,001 different failures before something succeeded. Guess what? Those 1,001 failures are the same as our freaking industry. I don't know how many things I've blown up over the years and went, whoops, including on the occasional client site. You will run into brick walls. Get over it, learn from it, tunnel under the stupid things, climb over them, knock them down. But don't expect it all to happen immediately. I think too many people, as we're having, I've had conversations on LinkedIn so many often. Somebody's like, well, how can I learn it? Here's how you learn it, and it takes time. Not necessarily experience, but just give yourself time. Give yourself the allowance to have that time. The interest, you guys can read this as well as I can. So, let's talk about the corporate world. How many of you work in what we would traditionally call a corporate environment? Nice. This is interesting. So this is, again, somebody looks at us and says, how do you get into this industry? A lot of times, yeah, you can keep bashing your head against the brick wall. You can basically keep going, okay, how do I have to keep working through HR or walk through the front door? There are other ways. We're going to go through a few of those. The social media. How many of you are on LinkedIn? What the hell about the rest of you? Had a conversation yesterday with somebody who was like, oh, I don't want to be on LinkedIn. Guess what? It is kind of the new reality. And if you don't want to put your picture up, put something fun up with a frickin' squirrel. Or whatever you want to use. You want to do the security side and the human engineering and the social engineering. You want to go work into this industry. Something like LinkedIn. We've got a whole bunch of slides on this later. It is hugely useful. You want to avoid talking to HR? Guess what? LinkedIn's going to help out on that one. Because you'll end up talking directly to people who are doing the hiring. There's so many different ways. The extra work, the volunteering side of it, all of this counts towards getting the notice on here. This one's in here just because people say, well, okay, I want to get into this industry. What can I go for and where can I start and how can I do it? The analyst, the blue team SOC. Again, a number of us, probably most of us in this industry, started off with the sucky jobs. I think I spent my first couple of years, literally, as I said, floppy disk and a screwdriver. First line support. It sucked, but flippin' heck, you learn. Hit networks, went from there. Engineers, tamer of all the blinky shit. Malware analyst. How many of you guys go into bug bounties? Anybody? 1, 2. What the hell are 3? You want to get and do more in this industry, contribute into those. I think there's a couple of talks later on bug bounties. In fact, I know there are because I remember talking about it at Aziz last night. Say again? No shit. Also, experience, knowledge, understanding. HackOne, BugCrowd, a whole bunch of others are out there saying, hey, we've signed companies up. Help us figure out how broken they are. This will help you. Not only does it help you understand what's going on, but you'll get the name out there, depending on whether you want to use your real name or not in the case of some of us. Tax evasion. It's kind of fun. I get paid in whiskey now. It's actually kind of cool. Audit, compliance, analyst. You guys can read this as well as I can. Each one of these has an avenue outside of a corporate world that will get you noticed inside of those worlds. How many of you maintain blogs? Are they public? How many of you don't think you have anything good to say inside this industry that people don't want to hear? Why? We all have opinions. We all have views. How many of you have been in this industry, say, less than 3 years? Quick show of hands. So do you not think that everybody around you wants to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the bumps that you went through? Share that information. Help others around you make less mistakes. LinkedIn. Get a profile up and running. Corporations are using it more and more and more. HR, for good or for bad, is using it more and more. We, the industry, are using it more. Who are you? Who are you connected to? And can I ask 4 or 5 other people about you? I get hit up with that on a regular basis. Somebody's like, hey, I just got hit up by somebody. Do you know them? And I'm like, let me go find out. And if that person's reached out to me and said, hey, I'm Fred and just want to say hi, then there's that connection. We all have that ability to do that, so freaking well do it, please. You want to hide your face on LinkedIn? Great. As I said, put a damn squirrel up there. You want to start looking at the companies that you want to actually get involved with if you want to change jobs or want to get into this industry? It is an amazing engineering tool to be able to do that. Everybody likes talking about themselves and their company. LinkedIn's one of the better places for doing it. You want to get a leg up and a head up on this kind of stuff? Start posting on LinkedIn. Start contributing. Put your thoughts out there. Become more eloquent in your use of language online. Here's the reason for doing this. When you're at a job interview and somebody goes, hey, so tell me about yourself, and you go, blah, 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 blah. They're like, well, that sucks. It's happened. Oh, God, it's happened a few times. But if you're the kind of person that's taken some time and gone, hey, I got a LinkedIn profile. You obviously know that because I saw you actually connect with me last week. Here's a couple of posts I've done. I listened to a big hairy thing on stage a couple of weeks ago at GrrCON. By the way, I volunteered at GrrCON as well. I've done this. I'm actually out there. Hey, I've done a couple of bug crowd things. Somebody who's sitting on the other side of that table is going to go, holy shit, this person is actually engaged. They care. That's the key. This is a community. And people care. So get out there and start to do that stuff. The mentor thing as well. A bunch of us in this industry, probably almost everybody sitting in these front 2 rows, let alone all the people around the edges, we're here to help. This is not a fight we are going to win on our own. We kind of want to help everybody else get involved in this damn fight that we're dealing with. Here's what I spend. I literally spend that amount of time on LinkedIn every damn day. It is a commitment. I get up in the morning, first thing I do, grab my phone, check out, make sure that nothing's actually blown up in the world. Well, not too much is blown up in the world from last night. Make sure I'm not going to get questions on anything that got blown up in the world. And then I'll take some time on social media. Then I close it. It goes boop and goes away. I get on with my job for a few hours, get some stuff done. Over lunch, I'll open it back up again. Then after lunch, it gets closed back down, as in turned off. Back to work, open it back up in the evening, and off we go again. Break your work days into segments effectively. So, the company wants to have a conversation. You manage to get your foot in the door, they want to have a conversation. Do not walk into those conversations unprepared. I don't know how many times I've had conversations with organizations and people where on the opposing side of the table, they didn't understand who we were, what we did, or what was going on. Every bloody organization has got enough intel out there, you can walk in armed. Do it. For those of you that are hunting, turn up with a damn resume and something to make notes on. I don't know how many, again, same thing. Sat down and talked to people, and they're like, hey, do you mind if I make a note of this? I'm like, sweet, you're actually paying attention. That's freaking awesome. Thank you. And then at that point, we continue to engage, and we go squirreling off on something else. Next you know, an hour's gone by, and you're like, holy shit, I like this person. As it says, be early, leave the electronics behind, for crying out loud. Yes, that one that says, don't hack the company. I've had that person came in and went, hey, so I did this, and I went into this side of yours, and I did this, and yeah, you got some problems over here. And I'm like, no shit. We kind of knew that, but let's have a conversation about CFAA. And don't bullshit. We teach how to bullshit. Don't try to bullshit the bullshitters. I don't know everything, but I know the people to ask. Again, LinkedIn. Talk about the research. Talk about your hobbies. This is simple, easy stuff that we can do more effectively. And then back to the soft skills. As it says, communication, written, listening. We all have to be more effective at how we do this one. The public speaking. Get involved. Come and stand up here next time. Put a talk in at GrrCON. Go talk at the B-sides. Get engaged on this one. It's actually kind of fun to do. Once you get over the initial, oh shit, everybody's looking at me, which we still get it feeling like that, have some fun and do this. It actually helps you a ton. Leadership. Step up. Doesn't mean you have to be in a leadership position, but leadership inside a community, leadership inside the team, helping friends, family, everybody around you. The attitude and the teamwork, you guys will get this one. Simple stuff that'll get you noticed. Unfortunately, it's the soft skills. We have to be nice occasionally. We're not good at doing nice, which is why we can actually put unicorn in a can as well. Don't always have to be nice. So I sat down and compiled a list of stuff I've heard at interviews that I'm like, I really don't need this one. Yes, China's hacking us. We're doing the same back to them. Let's face it. This is all stuff like, oh, I don't need the conspiracy theories. And the company doesn't need to know that you wear a tinfoil hat at home until you've at least gotten through the first paycheck. After that, yeah, all bets are off. And this one. Your career is an investment. Now, the game console is also a hell of an investment if you actually got a career in that industry. But if you're in our industry, put the freaking console away. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to get a little bit of dust on it, but you're going to spend more time investing into your future than you will into the game system. I cannot emphasize that enough. So many people are like, oh, I really want to do well in this industry. And so what do you spend your nights doing? Oh, I play games. Well, then why the fuck aren't you doing more to get into this industry? Break shit. Break games are good. Bug bounties. You get paid for breaking games. This is the one that always, I think, drives most of us nuts. How many jobs say, well, we need 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 years of experience? And then you're like, well, hang on, I need the experience to get the experience. What the hell's going on here? This is why the social media and the fact that we are human engineers comes into play. We might not have the 9 to 5 experience, but you start basically doing the stuff you're doing, your research, your home stuff, your evening stuff, your volunteer stuff. You guys can read that as well as I can. Getting involved counts as experience. And if you get past HR or circumvent HR, which is fairly easy to do, let's face it, you'll get to somebody like any of the hiring folks in this damn room. And you'll be able to help them understand, yeah, you know what, I haven't got paid for all of this. I got paid for doing this instead, but this is the knowledge I have. Why do we want you to break in? Because we need the help. This is why. I used this slide, I think, last year. We're adding more and more technology into this world. We're going to be sitting 20, 25 billion devices in the next couple of years. Guess what? We can break everything. We need to actually fix it for a change, which is why we need the help doing it. We are handing that technology to people who don't fundamentally or necessarily understand what the hell's going on. So then the question is how do we change that? We're putting it into everything, we're integrating into everything, and we sure as hell don't have enough qualified people. This is what we're expecting to have in the next, as it says, 2026, so the next 5-6 years, give or take a bit. 3.5 million. We're sitting anywhere at the moment from like 500,000, 250,000, 1 million, depending upon who you believe. That's how many we're short. We're in a negative unemployment situation, which is crazy. Money's good. Money isn't everything, no, by a long stretch. The flexibility, the ability to change, the fact people send you to conferences, all the other stuff that goes with it. Take that into consideration, and we sure as hell need more people in this industry. And we need the folks who care about things as well. So, back to that balance. It needs to be more than just a younger version of me. We have to have that, please. We look at the intelligent systems that we're building, we look at the architectures, we're looking at the companies that we're building, and it really comes back to that slide I put up. This is what we have to have. This is what it represents. Did any of you see the study that was done fairly recently? They looked at, it was either the Fortune 500, they looked at two different studies. They looked at the Fortune 500, and then they looked at CEOs and CIOs for the Fortune 500, and they did the same thing for a whole bunch of companies coming out of the Silicon Valley. Then they took the facial pictures of every single one of those Fortune 500s, and they did the same thing for the Valley. And they basically superimposed them on top of each other. What came out on top? White male. Change, please. So, the family. I'm going to keep this one simple. Join, be part of it, help out, get involved. B-sides, GrrCON, DerbyCon, everything, DEFCON, all the villages, everything that's going on. Everybody that's in the yellow shirts around here has volunteered their time. Get involved to this community. And that's my background. All good fun. Do you guys recognize that one? CDC. Might have gotten yelled at that one before I turned 20 quite a number of times. I've even still got some of the cease and desist letters from it. So back to this one, communication again. It's huge, and we're not good at it. This is something we need the vendors in the room to be listening to as well, and actually the vendors out there. Not necessarily all of these frickin' vendors, but a lot of them. You will see me on LinkedIn occasionally calling out the odd vendor that says that maybe, yeah, their product is wonderful and all else is crap. And I might actually take them to pieces. But when we have discussions, we have to be better at how we put defensible statistics out there. Again, comes back to that inclusiveness. There are a lot of people in other areas of industry that are better at that. How do we get better? How do we communicate in plain, simple English, or whatever language is your native one? How can we take something complex, like information security, and turn it into something that everybody can understand? That's going to take more than just us doing that. That takes us collaborating. HR, legal, finance, everybody else in the industry, we need to have those conversations with. And how do we listen better? Something we're not good at doing, but we have to get better. And as an industry, we have to get better at not blaming everybody. I'm just as bad. I might have blamed my grandma once or twice for breaking the internet. We can't carry on saying it's the network's fault or the developer's fault or the user's fault. We have to work together. And we all have to ask more questions. We're doing time-wise. We're getting there, aren't we? All right. Why the hell do we need to do this? Why am I standing here playing preacher for a change as opposed to breaking all the shit? Well, because this is breaking all the shit, and this is where we are. We are going off the edge of the cliff, and we're going off backwards in flames. It ain't pretty. As an entire industry, this is what's happening from a technology standpoint. And the problem is we're doing it faster and faster and faster. I like this one, but I don't like it because this is what's happening. You know, I stood up, I think last year or the year before, and I talked about the work we've done in nanotech and bio-nanotech, and then the stuff we've done in consciousness. And we start looking at how we are integrating more and more with the technology itself. And we're doing it without thinking about the security implications. We're looking at digitizing consciousness in the next 5 to 10 years. 80 to 90% of human consciousness will be able to digitize. And yet we still can't solve passwords. We're fucked. No shit, tell me about sticky notes. There is so much amazing potential future technology. If we can mess around with the consciousness and determine what is a human, that is not something a 47-year-old male should be determining on his own. Collaborating with everybody in society is where we need to be doing this. And by the way, we're already on the fricking journey. This isn't something that's a discussion. So there's a couple of us, a very good friend of mine. Actually, where the hell is he? He just gave me the damn beer. There he is. So I'm actually putting the abstract up. Hope you don't mind. So this is an abstract we're doing. And we're talking about intelligence, and we're talking about the future. And we're actually using a whole bunch of, popular culture references. George Orwell talked to us about a dystopian future in '84. The irony of the whole thing in '84 was when the Terminator movie came out. First version of the Terminator movie, not the previous first, second, third version that went backwards in time, and who the hell knows what's going on with that shit. So if you start looking at it, there's some interesting tie-ins. We've hit 30 years of Skynet being available and around now, and yet if you really look at where that stuff is, there's some interesting parodies that are going on. And obviously, we go back to DEFCON 10, when everybody was running around with frickin' matrices attached to them. There is so much in the future that we have to look forward to, but we cannot do it with the ratios and the lack of diversity and the lack of people that we have to look at that future. We have to have better people and a better spread across all of us to work this. Because quite honestly, I want to know whose hands were on those keyboards when the damn system does wake up. Because I think it's going to make a difference as to whether the system wakes up, looks at humanity and goes, well, you suck, and determines our future from there, or looks at humanity and goes, let me help you. That's a big difference. And it sure as hell is going to make a difference if we have a lot of other people on the keyboards. Especially if you think there's 7.5 billion people on this planet. I don't want it to be determined by one guy in the basement who's just messing around on this frickin' system. For those of you that like the reference, we are really that last starfighter. Either that or we just cover ourselves in tinfoil and go hide in the sits for a bit. So, some final and last thoughts. You heard, how many of you, everybody was here, I assume, for Chris's and Pink's opening thing? So Mike is a good friend. There's cards. Go sign them, please. Show family. Sorry. Whew. All right. I like this one. This is something that's relevant to us now. Ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. We are there now. We are literally at a stage where we have an entire tsunami of technology coming at us, and we still have that same mentality of let's break it and show how good we are. How about let's fix it, and let's show humanity how good we can be? Because quite honestly, this really should be our future. We can do a lot more effectively if we work with them, as opposed to obviously if we fail and we end up with this. This I like. I've put this out a couple of times and I'm going to keep using it. We have to work together. That's why a lot of us spend a bunch of time with the National Guard, with the military, with the government folks and everybody else. Because we have to collaborate more effectively. It's part of the reason we're up here talking about it these days. It's simple stuff. Please, please get involved. All right. The with thanks slide. Obviously, huge, huge hugs to everybody here at GrrCON. Do me a favor, everybody that's in a yellow shirt, make sure they get a frickin' hug too, please, and say thank you to them for volunteering time. Chris, the family, everybody, please, as Chris said, go say thank you to the vendors for the beer and appreciate them. I'm going to give a shout out because obviously a lot of those slides and a lot of the discussions that are in there were given to basically everybody on there. Chris, Leslie, Grayson, Mike, and Perry's here. And please, you saw the bat that I had, that's from Eddie. Any money that's given to Eddie for his artwork gets split into a couple of charities. You want some of Eddie's artwork, go hand him some money, it goes to charity. And so with that, I actually managed to end on time. Thank you very, very much, everybody. Hope that was somewhat useful. I appreciate it.